Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar, the Adobe Audition 2021 for VO Pro Tips for Power Users with my good buddy, Dan Lenard from VOBS. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
This is to take what we've started what we started on a few months ago with our original one, the beginner one, and just get deeper into the weeds. Not really, but really, I picked a whole bunch of points, items that I think almost everyone could use. Some of them are going to be not applicable. I'm a professional. Applicable to everybody, but I think there's going to be a lot of helpful tools. And then whatever we don't get to that you want to learn, that's where the Q&A box comes in. Please type any questions you want to have us address in the Q&A area. The chat is just for chatting and saying, hey, I can't hear you guys or whatever, or I can't see or whatever it is. But the Q&A is where you want to leave your questions for us. So thanks very much for being here. And thanks for also answering the poll. Kind of what I expected. It's about 3/4 Mac users, 1/4 Windows. Actually, it's like 80-20. And that's fine. You know, every time we mentioned command something, holding down the command key, C, copy. In Windows speak, it's control and then the same key. So it's very easy to translate pretty much everything to Windows. And the beauty of Adobe Audition is it works nearly identically between Mac and Windows. The only difference is like where the settings menu is in the Windows is in a different menu than it is on the Mac. Other than that, almost identical. So that's kind of nice. So I'll go ahead and end that poll and we'll get to it. But Dan Lenard, again, is my co-host on VOBS.tv. And he's been using Adobe Audition as long, if not longer than I have. And he uses it. He's a daily driver on Adobe Audition. So that's why I thought it'd be great to have him pop in. He's going to come in during the second hour. And he's got his own kind of list of bullet points to cover today. And let's show you all the stuff we plan to cover. It's a lot. So, you know, some of your questions may get answered. And if they do, just, you know, you can delete it and ask something else. There's no limit to how many questions you can answer or ask. And there's this new thing in the Q&A box where if there's a lot of questions, or if you have one that you see asked that you'd also like asked, you can vote up the questions so it shows up higher in the list. I don't predict we're going to run out of, or that we're going to have too many questions, but that's a new thing in Zoom, and I thought I would try it out. So here we go. Lots of stuff to cover today. Starting off with creating custom workspaces. Some people really appreciate this feature in Adobe Audition. Some powerful favorites and shortcuts. A lot of people are using shortcuts they know or favorites, and they've learned how to do this already, but maybe there's a couple things you hadn't thought of automating. So I'll go through a few things. How to convert sample types. So if you record it at 48K, how do you save it to 44.1K? Batch processing, the power of automation, more automation. That's taking favorites and then automating the process of using favorites to apply that to a huge number of files. Match loudness. This is another batch process. It looks identical to the batch processing function, except this is for matching the volume or the loudness of a bunch of audio files. So I'll show you common settings that I make use of if I'm going to use that tool. It's almost, in my world, almost always in the context of audiobook mastering. But let's say you're doing e-learning and you have to pump out 1,000 files. You want them all to be the same volume. This is a quickie way to implement that. Spectral View. This is one of the things I'm going to let Dan demonstrate because he loves Spectral View. He knows it really well. He's going to show you how to get it dialed in, as well as just what to use it for. What does it do, and why should you care? We're going to get into effects. That's another part of Spectral View that Dan likes to use is Auto Heal. This is one of those tools that once you learn how to use it in Adobe Audition, it changes your life. Set current clipboard. This is a definitely like power user feature, something that most people will probably never use, but you can have multiple files stored in the clipboard, and I'll explain what that means later and what you would do. Just using markers, generating a tone. I don't know how many folks like to do this, but some people still like to separate takes with a tone, like a beep. And here's how you would create a tone in Adobe Audition. The audio plugin manager, how to manage if you've got, let's say, way more plugins installed than you want to look at, or how to get a plugin to appear that isn't appearing. I'm going to talk about Rosetta mode since there's a lot of Apple users here. This will apply to you specifically. I won't spend a ton of time on it, but it has to do with being compatible with older plugins. You need to know about this Rosetta mode. If you're on a newer Mac, the new ones made in the last year, aka Silicon or M1. Then we'll get into some effects stuff. We'll talk about some of the, I'm going to bring up the ones that I make use of the most and what they do and basics on how they operate, starting with the hard limiter, normalize. Dan talks about normalize as well because that's kind of part of his production flow. The tube modeled compressor, just happen to like that compressor, and I'll show you how easy it is to use. Parametric equalizer, Dan's got a nice demonstration of how he makes use of that. The de-esser, which if you've got a sibilance issue and you just don't know how to fight it elsewhere, this is a tool you should know about. The FFT filter, which is, I use it for one specific thing, and that is a radical low cut to take out rumble, and I'll show you how I do it. Dynamics processing, this is a very complex tool, but I'll kind of like narrow down one particular use that it's good for in my world, and I'll show you what I do with it. Noise reduction and restoration. So what noise reduction tools are in Audition that you might want to make use of and appropriate use of them. Stretch and pitch. Now, the only thing that I use in this feature or I've seen anybody ever really use is they use it to shorten up the length of a read to fit into a certain time. And if you don't have years of broadcast experience and you know how to just do this inherently, Dan, then you may, this is a way to squeeze 31 seconds worth of script into 30 seconds. Build your first effects rack. I'll just show you what I might add into an effects rack and what order I use them and what I'm using them for. And then multi-track mode. Dan's also going to give us a rundown on the way he uses or what multi-track mode is for. We're going to get a little primer onto what it does and its own clip menu. It has literally, it's like a program within a program because it has its own menu of features called the clip menu. It's a whole nother level of complexity and tools. So we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, let's get started. So let's look at creating custom workspaces. Up here at the very top of the Adobe Audition window, you have the workspace area. And you'll see it could be loaded in one of multiple modes. It could be in default mode. It could be in one of other modes like edit to audio to video. And there's a bunch of them already loaded into the system that you can expose up here